How's it going, everyone? It's Brandon from the Signals of Intuition and Power Metal Point. Just want to introduce you to a new show I'm debuting that is going to feature excerpts from interviews that I've done in the past on my radio show. Through the years, I've gotten the chance to speak to a number of amazing musicians, and I've got to hear dozens of fantastic stories. And so what I figured I would do is break down some of these really good stories into little bite-sized clips that you can listen to for about 5, 10, 15 minutes instead of sifting through an hour and a half worth of interview. So the first one I'm going to share is with Falco, who sang in the band Wicked Maraya, who were a groovy power metal band out of New York in the mid-1990s. This is one of my all-time favorite stories that I've encountered during my interviews, and it makes me laugh every time I hear it. This is Falco telling his story of touring with Yngwie in November of 1994. So without further ado, I introduce you to the first Signal samples.
And we went out with D. He took us out. We did about a couple of weeks with D. We also went out with Yngwie.
Really?
Yngwie took us out on the road with him, believe it or not. I have a...
No, God, what, a seventh sign?
Yes. Mike Vicera was saying, I have a very interesting story on this. It's funny. And I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to place if it was before or after the Widowmaker tour. My memory's a little hazy, but we were out. I might have been right around the same time, a little before or after. But yeah, I have some very interesting and a unique Yngwie story, just in comparison with us. We went out, we were doing some shows, and we did a little mini, our own tour with a van, and, our own, a couple of our friends came out, our crew, and, very bare bones. We had a 15-passenger van pulling a trailer. And somehow our record label exec, Mausoleum had a New York office. They're like, you got a one-off show in San Antonio, Texas. There was a place in San Antonio called Sneakers. And we said, okay. He's like, you're going to be a support for a national act. And we're like, cool, who we opening for? He's like, Yngwie Malmsteen. And we were like, great. Now, obviously, everyone who knows anyone or knows the music scene knows Yngwie's reputation. So we immediately start getting phone calls. Don't do it. Yngwie's going to eat you guys up. He's not a nice person, blah, blah. And we were like, listen, we're 5 guys from New York. That doesn't bother us. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. That's not going to bother us. And if, in all honesty, our attitude was, if he comes up and gives us a problem, one of us is going to probably knock him out because that's what we do. So, but we were like, nah, listen, we're just going to go have fun. It's going to be cool. We were the easiest band to get along with. So we show up. I remember we show up the day before in San Antonio, and then the guy was like, hey, listen, come down and check out the sound check. So we show up, and we walk in, and I mean, Yngwie is in mid-form, ripping everyone apart. Sound guy, band, this, I don't like this. Where's my food? He was the best. He had catering every night, but he insisted on Taco Bell.
Oh my God!
Which is how, honestly, later on, thank God, that's how we survived the tour, because we ate all his catering. Because he was like, "You have it. I want Taco Bell." But anyway, so we show up, and we were like, "Wow, this is gonna be." And we just stood with our mouths open. Even our sound guy was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "I don't even want to go behind the board. This guy's just gonna yell at me all day." But we hung out, met the band. The band was cool. He had Mike Vicera. I think he had one of the Johansson brothers on keyboards. Barry Sparks was the bass player. I forgot who was on drums. But, great bunch of guys. And then he actually came over, him and his wife. He was married to he's had 2 wives named Amber. One of his wives is Amber. But she was cool, made us feel really at home. And they just kind of came over. I should say strutted over. Yngwie does not walk, he struts. And he came over and he was like, hey, nice to meet you guys, blah, blah, blah. You're playing with me tonight. It's going to be good, whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go on stage, and San Antonio, cool enough for us, had been playing the Cycles record. The place was packed, and we thought it was cool that there were many band names on the wall. Like, if the crowd liked you, back then, from what I remember, the story was, if the band dug you and you were good, you put your name on the wall. So we went on stage, we played. We went on, and I got to say, it was one of the best shows we ever did. We killed it. So we did our gig, and people were like, the place was insane for us. And they called us back for an encore. And I remember, we didn't want to do it because one of our friends who were in the industry were like, whatever you do, don't go back for an encore. Yngwie will lose his mind. So we're looking around, and Yngwie's stage manager goes, go back on. He goes, they're not going to stop cheering. He's like, and it'll, the Maestro, which what they call Yngwie, he's like, he won't be happy, so just go on and do it. We go on, we finish the set. We're out of control. Doing what we do. The place is nuts. They're chanting, we want the wall. We want the wall. I specifically remember that. So, we meaning they wanted our name on the wall. Well, okay, cool, right? We finish the set, go in the dressing room. We're hanging out. I remember specifically it was cool because I think that night Dean Castronovo, who ended up being in Journey for a while,
I interviewed
he was
him.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, my drummer was flipping out because he's like, "Oh my God, Dean Castronovo!" You know, like there were some name people that happened to be in town. They went to see Yngwie play. Yngwie. So we're hanging out, and all of a sudden the road manager walked in. He's like, "Yngwie wants to talk to you," and we're like, "Here it comes, here it comes," and we're all sitting there. And he comes in with his guitar and he starts like kind of playing one or two of our riffs. Like he already, because obviously he's Yngwie. He's like, "I like this stuff. I like what you did." And he's like, "What are you doing for like the next 3 weeks?" I think it was like 3 weeks. And we're like, "Well, we're going home tomorrow." He's like, "Nope, you're coming on tour with me." And we're all looking at each other like, "Well, what?" He's like, "He goes, you're going to be my support act." He goes, "I already talked to my booking agent. I talked to my management." He's like, "You're going to be my support act." He goes, "You guys killed it tonight." I mean, this stuff where we're looking at each other going, who kidnapped Yngwie and, switch bodies with him? Because everything we heard about him, and like I said, some of the stuff we saw, for some reason, he liked us, he respected us, he loved the musicianship, he liked the dual guitar harmonies. I mean, he would definitely, it was like that scene in, when they did the We Are the World for the heavy metal for Hearing Aid. He would want to come in and jam with my guitar players, and they'd both look at him like, "Are you out of your mind? I'm not going to sit and jam with you and do scales." But he liked us, and we toured. And it's funny because when I started posting this, the remembrance stuff, about what we're doing and the history and the anniversary, someone posted on one of my posts, the guy goes, "I remember seeing you guys on Long Island opening for Yngwie," and he goes, "Falco went up on stage and sang 'I'll See the Light Tonight' with Mike Becerra," which I did. The tour ended on Long Island, which could not have been any cooler. So we went out, we did the 3 weeks with them. And I got to tell you, it was interesting because a lot of the venues didn't want us because we were not on the package. And then there was 2 gigs where Yngwie actually told the guy was giving us a hard time. He's like, "I have a local band playing." And we're like, "Listen, I would never want to take away from a local band. We were once a local band." I was like, "We'll cut our set short, but, Yngwie wants us to play." And Yngwie basically walked in and said, "Wicked Maraya doesn't play. I leave. We don't do the gig." And we were like, damn, like he liked us that much. I can honestly say it meant a lot to us because he really dug us. So we worked it out with those bands because we didn't want to ever take time away from them. We would cut our set short a little to give some of these, here are kids who were like us, a couple of years before that, who would have given our left arm. I mean, I would have given anything to be hanging out with Yngwie Malmsteen when I was in junior high school, and now here he is fighting for us to play with him. So we did the tour. The tour ended up on Long Island, and it was pretty cool because we played a venue, one of the biggest venues on the island. And there was nothing cooler than, seeing all our friends in high school, people that we grew up with, some people who doubted us, some people who always believed in us, and the place was packed. And here we are opening up for Yngwie Malmsteen, who mostly everyone in our school they loved Yngwie. And I did. I went on stage. I said I would love to go on stage and sing "I'll See the Light Tonight," and they let me do it. And a lot of times during the tour, I would go up and Mike and I would split the vocals on "You Don't Remember, I'll Never Forget." We do the crowd participation. He would always call me up and be like, "Hey, Falco from Wicked Maraya is gonna come up," and we'd split the crowd in half. It was just a cool thing. So yeah, so we toured with Yngwie for a couple of weeks, and we ended up in Long Island, and our families were there and our friends, and Mike and John's grandma came, and Yngwie liked to eat, so she made him a lot of Italian food, and he was very happy because she brought trays of like lasagna and ziti, and we brought it into his dressing room, and needless to say, he was happy. And it was an interesting experience because most people have horror stories touring with Yngwie, not us. I can't talk enough about how great he was to us.
That's amazing. It's funny too because I've interviewed Jeff Scott Soto, and he was like, "Yeah, so Yngwie was a thing, So that's.
Oh yeah, believe me, I've read all the interviews, and I can see it, I can understand it. I've watched it, but for some lucky reason, Wicked Maraya in our entirety was spared the wrath of the fucking fury of Yngwie Malmsteen.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So it was good. This is another funny Yngwie story, I'll tell you. Now you picture you're 13, you're 14, you listen to Metal Church, you listen to Yngwie. I mean, these are the gods. Well, when we finished touring with Yngwie, we exchanged phone numbers, which you think nothing's ever going to come of it. Well, Yngwie really liked the Cycles record. And if you listen, I think he did an album called Facing the Animal, and it was a little more streamed down and groove oriented. Well, when I tell you this guy would call me at 3 a.m. at my house, on my, I lived at home, my parents' phone number, the phone would ring. I'd be like, "Hello, Falco man, Yngwie, listen to the new riff that I wrote." And I'd be like, what the F is going on right now? Yngwie's calling me at 2 and 3 in the morning to let me hear his riffs. Now, when you're a kid, that would have been fascinating. But, I'm now, however old I am, I'm sleeping because I may have to get up for work in the morning, do the odd jobs we used to do while we were home from tour. It got to the point where I'm like, Yngwie, stop calling me. And who'd have thought at 13 you'd be like, you're going to tell Yngwie, he's like singing lyrics. They give you money, it tastes like honey. I won't fall for your bait. It's like, what do you think of those lyrics? And I'm in bed like, what? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, it'd be like, and my brother would be, I was like, I was sharing a room. My brother's like, who's calling at 3 in the morning? I'm like, it's Yngwie Malmsteen. He's like, yeah, sure it is. I'm like, no, really? And I tell the guys in the band, and I'd be like, guess who called last night? They're like, is Yngwie still calling you? I'm like, dude, he called for like 2 weeks straight. Finally, I'm like, Yngwie, you got to stop calling me. I was like, the songs sound great. Good luck. But he liked us. Again, like I said, he liked us. But I said, who would have thought at 13 I'd be having to tell Yngwie, hey, stop calling me. I don't want to talk to you anymore. He was a character, man. Definitely a character. Just know that down here in Miami, where Yngwie still lives, he still goes out to Publix in the tight black pants, the boots, the ruffle shirt, and he still walks with the strut because a buddy of mine saw him a while ago. And he goes, I fucking saw Yngwie in Publix, and he's like strutting and prancing around with the ruffled shirt, the full hair in mode. And I just chuckled. I said, it must be nice being Yngwie. It must be nice being Yngwie, he goes, I just had to follow him up every aisle and be like, I can't believe what I'm looking at. And he was like doing the Yngwie walk in the strut and flipping the hair. And he goes, I just was like, because I had to leave. He goes, but I was dying. I just had to look. He goes, I knew you'd get a kick out of it. He goes, because you used to tell us the Yngwie stories. And I was like, I am dying right now. I go, I think I'm just dead. I go, that's hysterical.